The Friday night murders of 6 people in Umlazi, KwaZulu-Natal, and the killing of 3 others in Alexandra on Saturday has thrust mass shootings back into the spotlight. In fact, 2 weeks ago, 4 passengers were killed at a taxi rank in Port Shepstone when armed men opened fire on them. Crime figures recorded over 1,700 deaths following mass killings in the 2021-2022 period. For more on this, I'm joined by crime expert Professor Jacob Mofokeng. A very good morning to you, Professor. Let's talk about how this is not, is it perhaps sporadic? It seems to be a coordinated effort, particularly in the province of KZN.
Good morning, Will, and eNCA viewers. Well, it looks like within the KwaZulu-Natal province, beg your pardon, it is like in well-coordinated, attacks. And you look at this particular case that you have just shown now, where the perpetrators are looking for their lost or misplaced identity document, whereas at other parts of the country, you look at in the Eastern Cape and then also in the Gauteng, there are also, those signs of coordinated attacks. So it means that indeed, then it is something that is rising us again. Remember, within 2022 and 2021, we dealt with these cases of mass shootings, but within KwaZulu-Natal, it's something that is a common occurrence these days.
Professor, let's talk about just how these are carried out. It does seem, in some instances, to be assassinations. What has been your assessment?
Well, remember, when we talk about mass killings, it should be where, a number of people were killed in one incident. It could be, firstly, where, if there are assassinations, these targets are, there are certain individuals that have been targeted in that particular incident. But the use of firearms, where most, occasionally it will be assault rifles, we are talking about fully automatic AK-47, then in that particular case, we see an incident where, many people are killed at the same time. But where semi-automatic rifles are used, it means that, 1 or 2 people are targeted for that particular incident. Then in the case where, in this particular case within KwaZulu-Natal, yes, we find, those trends of individuals being targeted. Unfortunately, other people that are in the vicinity where maybe then there's that exchange of firearms, or when, the bullets were targeted at the particular individuals, innocent people are being caught. We take mention of targeted individuals. Remember, there was a case in KZN where, one particular individual was, supposed to be a state witness, where a number of police officials are involved in corruptive activities. So that person was gunned, in the middle of the street in daylight. So we also have where families are being targeted, for particular reason, where the police will not necessarily be able to give us with a clear indication or regarding the motive of this particular incidents. And mostly they are also unable to link whether, a particular incident, can be linked with a particular attack. So that is the situations that are confronting us now. But mostly it will be a case where more than 3 people are killed in one incident.
Let's unpack that further, Professor, this morning for our viewers here on eNCA. Does this now open the question on gun control and laws in South Africa?
Well, you look at the legislation regarding gun control, it is quite strict in terms of one to be able to be given or a license to be in possession of a firearm. It talks about many, faceted challenges in South Africa. Firstly, we are aware of the porous borders in South Africa, and secondly, because of, the issue of free trade and free movement of people, between the countries. That also, propels the challenges where currently in South Africa, we have in the region of around over 4 million, unregistered or illegal, firearms that are in circulations. And then regarding those that are licensed to carry firearms, the statistics indicate that around 5,000, of lawful firearms now are in the hands of unlawful, people that are normally using this particular, firearms to perpetuate crimes and to harass the communities. So it talks about the aspirations, if you are aware, and I'm sure that you are aware that of African Union, made declarations, that was around 2016 to say by 2020 there will be a silencing of sound of firearms in our communities. And then they realized either because of COVID or maybe because of a lack of capacity, of which then it talks back to the context in South Africa, whether do we have adequate resources in South Africa to deal with the scourge of proliferation of firearms. So then eventually the African Union said, well, maybe then the target should be 2030. In South Africa, where we have a population of around 60 million and, the circulation of over 4 million, illegal firearms that are currently in circulations, as well as you see now that, gangsters, people within taxi industries and, reprisals where people can be able to secure, firearms as well as ammunitions, for a fee so that they can be trying to eliminate a particular, targets. We have a challenge in South Africa, where there are also a conflict of, where the gun owners see that they will be disarmed, and then as such, it is not a good thing because the police are not in a position to be able to, policing, illegal firearms in the country. So we need to indicate that, this situation has been worsened by the state capture where, lawlessness has been seen as a way to go, in the country where, the capacity, there is a, lapse of trust within, between the community, as well as the South African Police Service. And this, put into question whether if people are willing to hand over firearms or if maybe we can, because we cannot do any other thing, except to say that we have to reform the criminal justice system. But again, considering the case of, targeting of whistleblowers in South Africa, it will remain a challenge, for people to come forward because remember the president has been, making a call for communities to come forth and work with the South African Police Service. But what happens then when they come forth to disclose of any corruptive activities, then they have been targeted and then being killed. So we have a dicey situation which really needs, all stakeholders in South Africa, not only in South Africa, but also neighboring countries to work around the issue of porous borders, free movement and free trade, but as well as a proliferation of these firearms.
And as my parting shot to you this morning, Professor, the obvious conversation then becomes the capacity to deal with the crimes. In the context of mass shootings in this instance, it then shows that the number of deaths, right, we're talking about 1,700 at the moment, compared to the conviction rate of the perpetrators, does not match and will not match anytime soon. What, in your view, needs to happen?
Well, firstly, is there any tracking of the supply of firearms in South Africa? It has been always the issue, a bone of contention regarding the capacity of the, intelligence service in South Africa. In the past, we used to see, intelligence working within a local police stations where, these people were working with informants to be able to inform the police that there are, proliferation of firearms within a particular community. We see a disengagement of crime intelligence in South Africa. We see a lot of infighting within the South African Police Service, where people that are competent, for somehow, they have been charged of some particular crimes, and then eventually they been dismissed, out of the country or out of the workplace. But here, is the issue that to say that do we have, a competent police management that will be able to deal with the issues that are societal issues such as crime, and be able to, make use of those that are promising and that are, that are capable to be able to give, confidence within the communities to say law enforcement is really working. We also talking about the ecosystem of the criminal justice system, whether and are they working together to be able to bring firstly the intelligence as well as the conviction, because it's not enough to arrest people without convicting them. I mean, we are now used to see, instances where police will be able to arrest people, but eventually, those people will go free. So it talks about whether the evidence has been gathered properly and whether criminal procedure as well as that of evidence has been, followed to the latter, to ensure that more people that are involved in mass shootings, are involved in crime and criminality, are not only arrested, but also convicted in that particular case. If then we see more convictions, then at least communities will come forth. But currently, no, there is no really that confidence within the criminal justice system as well as within the crime intelligence section.
Professor, thank you so much for your time this morning on the Sunday. That was crime expert Professor Jacob Mofokeng.